The time by Caracas is 6 p.m. and this is CBX Business News. The business news headlines are brought to you by QMax Wealth Management, making more possible. Recession fears allayed, and energy reform and oil prices jump. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Thursday, May 21, 2026. I'm Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, the Planning Institute of Jamaica says Jamaica is not in a recession despite recent economic contractions linked to hurricane impacts. Also ahead, Belize moves to reform its energy sector under a new strategy backed by the World Bank. And later, crude oil prices surge above $101 a barrel as risks surrounding the Strait of Hormuz intensify global supply concerns. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break. The local news is brought to you by Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a growing economic debate this evening. Is Jamaica in a recession? The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, says the country is not in a recession, despite mounting concerns after 3 consecutive quarters of economic decline. The issue emerged during the PIOJ's quarterly media briefing on Wednesday as questions intensified over Jamaica's shrinking economic output and weakening business conditions. However, Director General Dr. Wayne Henry says while the economy has contracted sharply, Jamaica does not meet the technical definition of a recession.
A recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of decline in growth, accompanied by certain conditions. And the conditions include a loss of confidence in terms of business and consumer confidence. You normally see a loss of investment flows. You normally see businesses shutting down. When you speak of a recession, we are speaking of consecutive quarters. So you'll be looking at now January to March vis-a-vis October to December 2025. So consecutively. And so that's what that's what you'll be analyzing for the determination of recession. We've reported that even though the negative impacts of the hurricane continue, they are continuing at a decreasing effect. So that as we look at, if we were to look at the consecutive quarters, consecutively, the impact in the October to December quarter would have been heavier than the January to March 2026. Because we are seeing the reduced impact since the hurricane, we are not in a recession.
That was PIOJ Director General Dr. Wayne Henry. Meanwhile, PIOJ Senior Director James Stewart says the economy is instead experiencing what economists describe as a V-shaped recovery, where economic activity rebounds following a steep decline.
We are thinking that there is no possibility of a recession. Statin will publish the deseasonalized quarter quarter-on-quarter performance in their report. But we are suspecting that as the conditions of Melissa, the negative conditions from Melissa, eases each successive quarter, there will be a growth relative to the preceding quarter. So you wouldn't find 2 consecutive quarters of decline during the quarter-on-quarter comparison. Whereas you see that year-on-year, the year-on-year comparison is not what is used to determine whether there's a recession.
That was PIOJ Senior Director James Stewart. Jamaica could soon intensify discussions around flexible work arrangements as rising global oil prices and geopolitical instability increase pressure on productivity and transportation costs. The Economy and Production Committee of Parliament is preparing to examine whether expanded work-from-home policies and flexible work hours could help cushion the economic impact of rising fuel prices on businesses and workers. Committee Chairman Orlando Tarrelong says worsening geopolitical conditions are now creating real concerns for Jamaica's productive sectors.
Given the real challenge of rising oil prices, geopolitical instability, and what it means for the productive sector generally, that the first agenda item would be looking at flexible work hours, work from homes, and framing that policy. I know that, again, that is something the government has been looking at. There are disagreements in relation to how it could work. Views of the manufacturing sector, but I listen to my constituents as well, and they have indicated that with mind you, the government has indicated that it has put measures in place to keep oil prices down for the moment. However, as war continues, let me rephrase it, as geopolitical instability continues to loom, we have to look at the real considerations that will affect ordinary Jamaicans.
That was Economy and Production Committee Chairman Orlando Tarrelong. In financial news, future energy source company FESCO is reporting its strongest financial performance to date as the fuel distributor ramps up expansion across Jamaica. The company says profit before tax jumped 58% to $764 million for the financial year ending March 2026, while EBITDA climbed past $1.2 billion, up 32% from the previous year. Speaking at an investor briefing on Tuesday, Managing Director Jeremy Barnes says the increase in revenue was as a result of a 12% increase in fuel sales, helping push shareholder equity above $3 billion.
We're proud to say for the year we did over $1.2 billion, coming up from about $918 million, which is a 32% increase. Operating profit, we did over I believe it was $900 million in operating profit, which is up from about $658, is about a 41% increase. Profit before taxes is about a 58% increase, up from $481 to now $764 million. So we're pretty proud of, these numbers, and this was strengthened and actually attained by us selling more fuel. And for the year, we sold 12% more fuel than we did the previous years.
The company is also moving ahead with a major build-out strategy with new stations planned for Westmoreland, St. Anne, and St. James.
We have about 3 more service stations that are due to open this calendar year. Sheffield, which soft opened this month of May, which is doing very well in Westmoreland. We have Runaway Bay, which is scheduled to open at around September this year. And we have Cinnamon Hill in St. James, which is scheduled to open about in December. All these plannings, all this works, it takes about 3 years to build a station. And we have, I'll make other announcements in the coming months. But the reality is that we have a strong pipeline of service stations. And, part of this year, which just ended March, was to continue that pipeline and plan for those stations.
That was FESCO Managing Director Jeremy Barnes. Staying in financial news, Everything Fresh Limited recorded revenues of $4.17 billion for the 2025 financial year, representing a 13.3% increase compared to 2024. According to the company's 2025 annual report, the growth was driven by stronger expansion across restaurants, retail outlets, and grocery segments, alongside continued growth in the tourism and hospitality market. The company says new hotel contracts, particularly in the Bahamas, helped generate higher sales volumes and supported the rollout of new product lines. Jamaica also contributed more than $428 million to the revenue increase as the company expanded deliveries and widened its customer base. Gross profit rose to $841.9 million, while operating profit climbed 21% to $126 million. Net profit also improved to $42.8 million from $32 million in 2024. The company says Hurricane Melissa disrupted operations during the final quarter of the year after several major hotel properties temporarily closed, softening demand within the tourism channel. However, management says the group's diversified customer base and expanded distribution network helped cushion the impact. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 110 stocks, of which 38 advanced, 47 declined, and 25 traded firm. Leading the winners are Main Event Entertainment Group, Elite Diagnostic, Cygnus Credit Investments 8% preference shares Class I, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company. While leading the losers are Productive Business Solution USD Ordinary Shares, Portland JSX, MPC Caribbean Clean Energy, and West Indies Petroleum Terminal. The main index declined by 4,705.24 points to close at 344,789.70 points. However, the junior market index advanced by 6.17 points to close at 3,043.61 points. It's time for the Market Education feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. In today's Market Education feature, we're discussing annuities. An annuity is a financial contract offered by an insurance company that provides a steady stream of income in exchange for a lump sum payment or a series of contributions. Payments may begin immediately or at a future date and can continue for a fixed period or for the remainder of the purchaser's life. Unlike life insurance, which pays benefits after death, annuities are designed to provide income while the purchaser is alive. They are commonly used as a retirement planning tool to help reduce the risk of outliving one's savings. That was the Market Education feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards. And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next. The local news is brought to you by Derrimon Trading, better from the start. The Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Tease the Senses, and Pulse Investments.
Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out, yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Belize is entering a new phase of economic expansion, with the World Bank backing a broad strategy targeting growth, energy security, and job creation. The World Bank has approved a new country partnership framework for the country focused on private sector development, climate resilience, energy reform, and workforce expansion, the details of which were revealed in a release issued on Wednesday. The strategy comes as Belize's economy continues to recover, with unemployment falling to a historic low of 2.1%. The bank says tourism accounts for about 45% of the economy, while public debt has fallen sharply from 103% to 62% of GDP following recent economic reforms. However, rapid economic activity is creating skilled labor shortages as demand for workers accelerates. The World Bank also warned that nearly half of Belize's electricity is imported, even as energy demand has surged by almost 50%. The release also notes the framework will prioritize energy transition projects, infrastructure development, education, and skills training to prepare workers for emerging industries. World Bank Caribbean Director Lilia Burunshik says the institution remains committed to supporting Belize's next phase of growth, including attracting private investment and expanding economic opportunities. Meanwhile, the framework will bring together multiple World Bank Group agencies under a single development strategy aimed at long-term economic transformation. And in Barbados, Prime Minister Mia Mottley is warning that too many self-employed workers are leaving themselves financially exposed through their failure to prioritize National Insurance Scheme (NIS) contributions. Speaking during debate on a private member's resolution related to the NIS on Tuesday, Mottley warned that the lack of contributions is leaving too many Barbadians vulnerable later in life.
I have seen too many professionals in this country. I have seen too many self-employed people in this country. Too many taxi drivers, too many fishermen, too many carpenters and masons, too many lawyers and doctors and engineers find themselves in either abject poverty or
avoidable circumstances.
No. Or pretending to live good but catching themselves because they have not made the provisions for the later stages of their life.
Mottley says the government wants greater participation from self-employed and informal workers, describing the National Insurance Scheme as a critical financial safety net.
In the same way that I look forward to the NIS also reporting annually, because I don't want to wait for the next actuarial reports to find out whether we have more than the 20% self-employed people registered with the NIS system, and the next time there's a pandemic, then you're running asking, can we have business interruption benefit? Or the next time our fishing sector is decimated, as it was, that we have large numbers of people who have forgotten that NIS is what? It's your lifeline.
That was Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. In corporate news, a strong recovery in investment values has driven a major earnings turnaround for National Enterprises Limited. The company reported a net profit of $237.9 million for the 6 months ended March 31, 2026, reversing a $187.5 million loss recorded a year earlier. According to the company's latest unaudited financial statements, the improvement was largely fueled by a $186.6 million unrealized gain in the fair value of its investment portfolio. Operating profit also improved slightly, while dividend income rose to $52.2 million. Total assets grew 12% to $2.8 billion, with cash holdings rising sharply to $233.9 million. Earnings per share also rebounded to 40 cents, compared with a loss of 31 cents a year earlier. At the same time, the company's share price climbed to $5.01 as at May 13, 2026, representing a 160% increase from $1.92 at the close of the 2025 financial year. In his statement accompanying the results, Chairman Kern Das says the performance reflects the resilience of the company's investment portfolio despite volatility in global energy markets. He noted that while energy investments continue to face pressure from LNG and ammonia price savings, non-energy holdings, including telecommunications services of Trinidad and Tobago, delivered stronger results. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 19 securities, of which 8 advanced, 6 declined, and 5 traded firm. Today's winners are A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, National Enterprises, Trinidad and Tobago NGL, and National Flour Mills. While leading the losers are JMMB Group, CIBC Caribbean Bank, Point Lisas Industrial Port Development Corporation, and Guardian Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index advanced by 11.99 points to close at 1,433.19. The Composite Index also advanced, but by 3.97 points to close at 997.93. The cross-listed index, however, declined by 0.66 points to close at 74.50, while the SME index remained at 81.70. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
This project marks the celebration of our 30th Hall of Fame and aims to highlight the achievements, challenges, and invaluable lessons of those who have shaped and are shaping the future of our economy. Our aim is to celebrate the voices and stories of 30 remarkable leaders in Jamaica's private sector. Join us as we explore these narratives of resilience, leadership, and vision.
Okay, I just sent the money. I'll WhatsApp you the tracking number.
Thanks, Daddy. I can't wait to buy that PS5.
Listen to me. Your birthday money is not just for spending. Remember what I told your mom? Remember to open the bank account immediately after collecting the money. Your mom has her ID, TRN, proof of address, proof of income, and your school ID.
I'm not an adult yet, so Mommy will have to open the account with me.
Yes. Anyways, I'm headed back to work, so call me later. I love you guys.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
Welcome back. In international news, WTI crude futures climbed roughly 3% to trade above $101 per barrel on Thursday, as uncertainty surrounding the Strait of Hormuz continued fueling fears of prolonged supply disruptions across global energy markets. In the latest development, Iran's supreme leader ordered that the country's near-weapons-grade uranium remain inside Iran, reinforcing Tehran's opposition to a major U.S. demand in ongoing negotiations. Iran also announced the creation of a Persian Gulf Strait Authority, adding that a controlled maritime zone would be imposed across the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices are now hovering nearly 50% above pre-conflict levels amid ongoing supply concerns and continued declines in U.S. crude inventories. Last week, the United States released nearly 10 million barrels from its strategic petroleum reserve, marking the largest withdrawal on record. Meanwhile, disruptions across global energy markets are also reshaping international natural gas flows and storage activity. U.S. energy companies added 101 billion cubic feet of natural gas to storage during the week ending May 15, pushing total inventories to 2.29 trillion cubic feet and exceeding expectations for a 95 billion cubic feet increase. The stronger-than-expected storage build came despite robust overseas demand for U.S. liquefied natural gas, particularly from Europe and Asia, as the ongoing U.S.-Iran conflict disrupted LNG shipments from the Persian Gulf. The disruptions prevented several tankers from departing with cargoes, tightening global supply conditions and increasing dependence on U.S. exports. Natural gas inventories were 1.4% higher than the same period last year and stood 6.6% above the current 5-year average. And in Europe, elevated energy prices are also continuing to weigh on household sentiment and inflation expectations. Consumer confidence in the euro area improved modestly to -19 in May 2026 from a more than 3-year low of -20.6 in April, beating market expectations of -20.8 according to preliminary estimates. Despite the improved sentiment, remained deeply negative as rising price pressures linked to the Middle East conflict continued fueling inflation concerns and strengthening expectations for future interest rate hikes. Across the wider European Union, consumer confidence also improved, climbing to -18.2 from -19.4 in the previous month. However, both indicators remain well below historical averages and under levels recorded before the start of the Middle East conflict. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
We get the big contract. 50,000 units a month for 3 years. Great. Won't need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, PIOJ says Jamaica is not in a recession despite economic contraction. Regionally, Belize targets energy reform on the new World Bank strategy. And internationally, crude oil prices surge above $101 as Hormuz risks intensify. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rashel Moncrieffe. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.